So I really love like sitting in these conversations because it's not often that like I think my generation gets to hear from their mother that if I was calmer, your life would have been so much better. A lot of it is usually in the victim mentality. It's like, well, my life was fucked up too, so this is the life that you have to live. And I think now we're in a new wave and a new generation of as we continue growing and healing and learning how to regulate our nervous system, we're slowly breaking the generational cycles that have happened decades before us, centuries before us. And it's like a breath of fresh air of like, this is still happening. This is actually happening in the real world. And a lot of families are experiencing this. And then coming from the perspective of a daughter who has had the life of like being sexually abused, who has had the life of being groomed and having dysregulated parents to now being on the other side of it is it really takes focusing on regulating your nervous system.
Mhm.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Breaking the Cycles. I am your host, Tasiyah, your co host, Laziena, and we are here with our great friend who is a wonderful guide, Laura. Hi, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you so much for having me. So I'm a guide as well as a coach, and I help women, primarily mothers, navigate their own healing journeys so they could show up and parent from truth and not trauma. So generational cycle breaking, nervous system regulation work, and really embodying the healing journey to step forward in that new chapter in a more empowered state.
Like that. Well, it is called breaking the cycle for a reason.
Where are we diving in?
A good question. Where shall we begin?
I think for me, I feel like our path, like, kind of have some similarities because Tassia is my oldest and when she was sexually abused, it took me to my knees. It brought me to my knees and it was like, what the heck was happening? And I was about, 38 at the time. And I looked at my life and I was like, wait a minute, this is the same age my mom was when she was taking care of three of us. My father had passed away. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm gonna be almost 40. I have three kids. Like, what is this? How did this even happen? And then I was sexually abused when I was younger. So I was kind of like, I wasn't expecting that this would happen to my family. And I tried my best to like, prepare and protect and all of that. And it just unraveled in front of my eyes. I was lost and I didn't know what to do. So I started to look for other women who were in the same situation. And I found a lot of women were in the same situation, but they were afraid to talk about it. And there was a lot of scared. And I was like, well, I want to see somebody who was on the other side. I want to know that we can overcome this because I refuse to let this be something that sunk us because now I have other children to take care of. So that led me onto my whole awakening awareness, awareness, then healing, and then awakening journey. And one of the things that you talk about a lot that I love is a nervous system regulation. And I didn't learn about nervous system I feel like I learned that at the tail end of everything.
I did too.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I hear you talk, I don't hear a lot of people talk about that. And that whole journey to it. So I feel like our journey like mirrors each other in a way, some similarities, and there's so much that we can even expand on to be able to speak from and like I think you always say embodiment of the work
Mhm.
without the shame or without the parenting from guilt or watching the words by I know my part in it. I also know what wasn't my part in it. I know what I can take accountability for. And, being able to speak that truth and help guide other moms, parents and children along that journey because when I was on that side of it, I couldn't see this side of it. So I think that's what.
And that's truly like when I talk about nervous system or bringing
Yeah.
up nervous system and how imperative it is. Like I've done the nitty-gritty and the deep healing and the
Mm.
shadow work and I was literally living with my cousin, who is my mom's first cousin. So she was
Mhm.
at that generation. Then there was me, and then there was my daughter. And so we
Yeah.
had three different generations that we were sort of like going through the healing work with. So
Yeah.
she could recognize in me what she experienced, knowing our generational patterning. And then she could recognize in my daughter what was pretty much, cycles repeating itself. So
Yeah.
it was like you were sitting back watching a movie of watching how generational patterning sort of unfurled.
Yeah.
And through that journey, and we'll get back to, how beautiful of an experience that was, that we had three generations of women that we can sort
Yeah.
of track that generational patterning to neutralize it, because we can't stop our children from experiencing trauma, right? Every trauma is in the eye of the beholder.
Right.
However, we can neutralize it, yes, we could do our best to not put our children in danger, but
Right.
also if it does
Yeah.
happen, to neutralize that. And, one of the biggest things that I think would have accelerated my own healing journey, my own work that I sort of took on when I realized there was an accountability, or radical accountability, if you want to call it that, in
Yeah.
regards to, right, how am I allowing this to happen? Why does this
Yeah.
happen to me? It was,
Yeah.
there was nothing outside of me. It was pulling everything internally. One of the biggest things that would have made things go a lot faster, I mean, my journey is my journey. It's all divine timing. But what would have made it go a lot faster is if there was more awareness to my nervous system. I had no idea how much my nervous system was dysregulated,
Yeah.
and I noticed that through, and we talked about this a lot, that our
Yeah.
daughters were truly catalysts for our
Yeah.
healing journey. And there's so many things on the parenting journey, parenting is stressful enough, like, so there were so many things on the parenting journey that if my nervous system was regulated, I wouldn't be as reactive. But on top of also the healing side of it, recognizing your shadows, recognizing your patterns, recognizing your triggers, if my nervous system was calm, I wouldn't then get defensive. I
Yeah.
wouldn't go into fight or flight.
Yeah.
I wouldn't shut off and, the runner, right? Like I
Yeah.
wouldn't procrastinate, I wouldn't numb, I wouldn't detach. I would actually be able to hear
Mhm.
what my cousin was saying, my, individuals I worked with was saying. I would be actually able to hear what they were telling me, but I couldn't because it wasn't safe, because I
Mhm.
wasn't safe in my own body. And
Mhm.
so the nervous system regulation work, yes, there's breathing, and yes, there's supplementation, and there's frequency modalities, and there's so many things that can help you actually heal on the cellular level, because we could do all the emotional work.
Yeah.
We can bring it up and we can sort of say, okay, I have this awareness. I know what's going on, but our trauma is stored so deep in our cells and in our fascia that even if you do all the emotional work, the cells are still in fight or flight. And so either your mind then is calm and your body is tripping out and running or
Yeah.
reacting.
Right.
And now, because I have different modalities that I use to regulate my nervous system and have, makes me a calm mummy and, calm individual when dealing with life's challenges, chaoses, tower moments, whatever we want to
Yeah.
call them. Now my body can catch up and my mind can catch up to my body. So my
Yeah.
body's calm. And so when I spiral or when I freak out for a second as opposed to a longer period of time. So in the healing journey, because we heal
Mhm.
forever, healing is continuous. We're always doing layers of our expansion and our
Yeah.
awareness. At the end of the day, the key is to be able to pivot really fast. So when something sort of lands on your plate that you didn't like or that wasn't comfortable, you're or upset or threw you into fear and all that kind of stuff, sometimes it would take a month to get over it. You'd stay in
Mhm.
victim mode, and then it'd be a week, and then, now it's so fast that when something happens, I can pivot right away. So
Right.
there's no more lag period. There's like, "Oh, okay, whoa," and then recalibrate, and you're like, "Right, life is happening for me, not to me," and then I can move forward, and I no longer get in that lull or get in that lower vibration or fear energy or victim mindset, whatever you wanna
Yeah.
call it. I'm able to switch it right away, and I truly think that's because of the nervous system support that I now have. So, it's just really allowed me to be present for my daughter, not be reactive, take that. Because once again, I don't want to react. I know that I'm reacting. I don't want to raise my voice. I don't want to react. I don't want to zone out, on top of all the neurodivergent stuff, whether it's
Yeah.
ADD or ADHD or whatever they want to call it next, all those things. That's me. But those are for me, so many of those are more trauma responses than actual clinical diagnosis, if that makes sense. Like,
Right.
yes,
Yeah.
I have
Yeah,
been,
that's perfect.
that's where I've gone. Like,
Yeah.
when I was a child, I was on Ritalin, I was on all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
However, truthfully, in my adult years, knowing the trauma that I've experienced, knowing my life experiences, those were all different,
Yeah.
things that I was doing to keep myself safe, not,
Yeah.
their trauma responses. So as things have progressed, if I had that nervous system tool or, if I knew more about nervous system and incorporated more of it in, man, life would have been a lot different. And, it's like, and once again, that's why when I say a guide, it's like, I know I'm holding the light. You get to walk it. I'm showing you the path. And the
Mhm.
beautiful thing is because I've gone through it, because now I embody it, because now I know it, I can collapse timelines in the
Mhm.
sense of, whether you want to talk at quantum leaping,
Yeah.
jumping, you name it, I'm able to sort of say, hey, okay, this is what's taken me 5 years of working with a coach every single day. I can collapse that now for you into 6
6 months
months or,
max.
you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're able to collapse those timelines for people because you've walked that path and you know what was that missing piece and so you're taking what you know from a emotional healing, pattern recognition, generational cycle breaking, all that kind of stuff. And you're like, wow, now if my nervous system was calm, so I knew that I wasn't in fight or flight, I probably could have worked through a lot of that a lot faster or become empowered a lot faster or been able to, your self-worth and your self-value. That's a journey that takes a long time. But yeah, it would have been a lot quicker if
Yeah.
nervous system was actually at the forefront of
Forefront,
my
yeah.
Yeah,
healing.
I like that. So I really love like sitting in these conversations because it's not often that like I think my generation gets to hear from their mother that if I was calmer, your life would have been so much better. A lot of it is usually in the victim mentality. It's like, well, my life was fucked up too, so this is the life that you have to live. And I think now we're in a new wave and a new generation of as we continue growing and healing and learning how to regulate our nervous system, we're slowly breaking the generational cycles that have happened decades before us, centuries before us. And it's like a breath of fresh air of like, this is still happening. This is actually happening in the real world. And a lot of families are experiencing this. And then coming from the perspective of a daughter who has had the life of like being sexually abused, who has had the life of being groomed and having dysregulated parents to now being on the other side of it is it really takes focusing on regulating your nervous system.
Mhm.
It
Well,
really
and it
takes
takes
getting
you out of
into the
that victim mentality
Mhm.
too,
Yeah.
right? That you're
Yeah.
like, okay, right. Yes, life scenarios have happened, which were horrific and really shitty.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But at the same time, knowing and having that awareness of all the different things that led to that happening allows you to
Overcome it.
rewire that
Yeah.
both for your own self and your future, right? So it's very empowering understanding the whys. Like, so many times we're just and when I say at the mercy of or at the victim of, but at the same time when we understand, right, so this
Yep.
is where,
Mm.
and once again, yes, we show up where we are and we all strive for impeccability at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like we all do that. But the beautiful thing is you get to understand and that helps you as also as a child. Like I know from the healing work that I've done with my mother and all that kind of stuff. It's like no, there's a deeper level of understanding and compassion because if it was that bad for you, imagine how that
Oh,
was, right?
yeah.
So it's just like, like it didn't happen overnight and their reality, how they show up in an individual, that's truly how they've been conditioned, how they've been programmed, how they've been wired, right? Like we have at least 7 generations of
Yeah.
cellular memories
Mhm.
stored,
Yep.
right? So what your great great grandmother experienced, you're still holding that memory, whether
Yeah.
it's, war, whether it's famine, whether it's, once again, we
The
hold that, we store that memory cellularly. So it takes a lot to rewire, but it's very empowering knowing and having a better understanding and perspective on how this happened at the first place, because then you're able to forgive. Forgiveness is both self-forgiveness and to forgive others, right? And that becomes that really adds to you finding your own peace, you finding your own empowerment, you being able to say, right, this is what's going on, and I'm going to move forward. So it's very empowering, sort of understanding sort of what your mom went through, what was conditioned with her. This is why I was in this scenario. And, having that awareness is not for the faint of heart. Like, it's
it
deep,
isn't,
it's
yeah.
emotional work. Like,
Mhm.
it's not an easy thing to say, this is what I experienced, like, but so empowering that now you get to like rewrite that script, right? That you get
Mhm.
to rewrite and stop that pattern from continuing. It's very powerful to
Mhm.
break those cycles.
And it's as you're talking, I'm reminded of I think we did a podcast maybe a year or two ago, and we talked about the similar things. I was kind of sharing my journey from then to at that point, and it was like, what would I have done differently? And I would have just sped it up. I would have
Oh,
quantum
I
leaped
remember
it.
that episode,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would have quantum leaped it. And I remember like the time when everything first happened. I was so distraught, and those very question of asking like how did this happen? Why does this happen? And my therapist was telling me, "Oh, you have to forgive." And I was not ready for all of that. I didn't want to hear any of that. But now when I look back on it, I'm like, "Oh my God, I was so locked up in so much fight and survival and pain and suffering. Like my heart was holding on. At first I needed to get out and I was in survival mode. I
Mhm.
had to get out of survival mode while learning about myself, while reparenting myself, while making sure that I'm showing up for my kids. And if I'm doing it wrong, give myself grace and compassion and try again. And every step of the way, it was a learning curve, but I embraced it. And there's a community that I'm a part of, and I see women saying the same things that I was. And it was like, I know that I can't say you have to forgive because they're not going to want to hear that at all. But it's almost also like I want them to hear people like us who are like, okay, yes, we've been there. It doesn't mean that we're not no longer affected by it, but we're not sitting in that anymore,
Mhm.
in that depth. And I wish I can say, okay, look into not just your nervous system, like regulate your nervous system first, and then like learn your attachment style, find out what your emotional needs are, like all these little pockets of things along the way that were great. They were great tools, and they were great epiphanies, and they were great aha moments, and just growth altogether. But it's like one of the toughest journey because the victim mindset, and I hate saying the victim mindset too because I needed to be there. It was like when you're saying like, I forgot the term that you use, but it was kind of like, why me? This is not happening to me, it's happening for me. Could not being able to see that. But then when that switch happened, it's like, oh, that's what that meant. Like now I can relate to that.
And then
Now
there's, when it comes to forgiveness, shitty behavior is shitty behavior,
yes.
right? Like, if
Yeah.
someone has the awareness and they continue to
Yeah.
show up negative or a bad
Yeah.
person or shitty behavior, there's no forgiveness for that, right? Like,
Right.
that when you know that they have the level of awareness and they
Yeah.
still choose shitty behavior, well, no, there's no
No,
forgiveness in that,
it's
right? Like,
forgiveness for
that is
boundaries.
a choice. No, but truly, when you and you know what, sometimes somebody has to, because the divine has a curriculum for us all. What has
Yes.
taken me so many years might only take you 3 months to
Yeah.
learn, and
Yeah.
somebody it might take 35 years to learn, right? Like, we can't speed up that season of, like, how long do you stay in that victim mentality? How long do you think that the the world's
Yeah.
happening to me, like, and taking everything personally? It's like, when you shift that mindset and then you're like, okay, right, this is a season of life. I have to surrender that it's taken a year for me to learn those lessons and experiences, for me to actually embody it. Like, you can't also beat yourself up for how long it takes you to unravel that. That's also perfect
Yeah.
in regards to divine timing. Like, you can't rush up those experiences. You can't fast track, different people coming into your life and triggering different things. Like,
Yeah.
all those things, will happen naturally and organically as they should, but you can definitely collapse timelines a lot quicker once you
And
are
approaching it
aware.
and approaching it with curiosity and
Mhm.
instead of fear too.
And to just add on to that for those that are listening, which, well, obviously those that are listening, but you're doing the best you can, and
Mhm.
I'm proud of everybody who's on their journey wherever you're at in your phase. The next step for you is going to be you're gonna be so grateful for your first step going into
Yeah.
it. And it's okay to just be you. It is okay to learn every single thing about you before hopping into the next thing.
Yeah.
And especially since, it's the cold season, there's a lot of energy shifts that go into the negative. I have a lot of friends right now whose depression is like hitting hard for them. I understand and I relate. And the best thing that worked for me was focusing on healing myself.
Yeah.
But if I was depressed, I stuck it through. I understood exactly which wave it was, where it was coming from, which inner child was hurt, which teenager was hurt, who needed to be regulated, to understanding that a diagnosis is just a nameplate. It doesn't make it to who you
Well,
are.
it's just a label. And you know what? Even when it comes to seasonal stuff, that's nervous system. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
once again, we are animal species. We forget that we're animals. Like, and
Yeah.
so, what happens in colder weather? Food scarcity, less sunlight, colder weather, like, all those things. Like, this is our nervous system being triggered. Like, seasonal stuff is nervous system related. Like, it is truly at our cellular, biological, level, foundational
Everything
level.
that our bodies go through is a reflection of where we need to focus on.
Mhm.
If you're
Yes,
sick, it's an underlining meaning. If you're mentally in a different space, it's an underlining meaning. But that underlining
100%.
meaning doesn't mean that it's like you're a broken person or you're somebody who can't be fixed or there's no hope for you.
Mhm.
There
No, it's
is
an
hope.
invitation.
Coming
It's
from
an
somebody
invitation
who
what to
has
look into
experienced
for sure.
yeah. Coming from somebody who's experienced not feeling hope and not knowing that I'd be here 7 years later, it's a completely different world, and it's a much more healing world, and
Yeah.
the person I was last year to the person I was to this year to 2 years ago, da, 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 down the line, I'm a completely different person now.
We're
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
evolving, I'm not the same person I was last
Mhm.
week. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, there's
Yes.
there's
Yeah.
things that you're like, "Oh, I'm ready for this. I can handle this." And then, I have to go through these huge moments of vulnerability and, softening into my feminine and all that kind of stuff. And
Oh my god,
it's it's
softening
it
into feminine was such such a hard
it
time. I
that is the
still have a
process.
hard time with it.
That is the process. But the more safe that you feel in your body, the easier will be. Going back to nervous system regulation, like, it truly is softening your feminine, not being your hypomasculine, knowing that you're safe, like, all that kind of stuff. And we're talking about energy here, but, like, when we're talking about all those types of things, like, that is all cellular. That is
Yeah.
all
Yep.
cellular. That is all stored in your fascia. That is all stored in your body. And that's where, if you could incorporate different things, whether it's breath work, whether it's yoga, whether it's grounding, whether it's showers, whether it's dipping, yourself into different bodies of water, whether it's somatic work, whether it's
What is
supplementation.
what is your favorite method of self-regulation? I think that's a good question. Like, what
My
is
my
your
f
favorite?
my favorite one, and
Yeah.
it was funny because I did a TikTok about this the other day. Like, my favorite one is having a shower. There's such a power in a shower, and I never knew it was nervous system related. So, like,
Mm.
when you have babies and you go to baby showers and you fill out different things, you're like, "What's your new advice for a new mom?" Mine was always have a shower, and I never it was such like a recalibration moment for me every single time I had a shower, and sometimes I would have like 3 or 4 showers a day just because she spit up a lot. So, like,
Yeah.
I was just always having showers, but warm water actually calms your sympathetic nervous system. And so when you have a shower, it's 30 seconds, it's a minute. You don't need to be in there for 5 or 10 minutes. It
Yeah.
can literally be a a 30-second shower or a minute shower, but that is enough to switch something in your programming in your body for your nervous system to come back into balance. So a shower is the easiest one. My favorite modality that I'm using currently is a light therapy technology, and that
Mm.
by far has been a game changer for me to heal on a cellular level because I've done a lot of different like frequency devices and all that kind of stuff, sound, light, you name it. But the light therapy device it has shifted everything for myself, my daughter, like she also uses it as well as my pet. All of us use it. And, he's calmer. I have a 135-pound dog, Bernese Mountain Dog,
Oh.
and he is just a nervous wreck on a good day. And like the kettle goes off and he's like, oh, what's going on? Okay. So like,
That's
he is such a
tiring.
little scaredy cat and he is so calm now. Like, so, storms come in, all that kind of stuff. There's nothing that spooks him out. So his nervous system's calm. My daughter is so clear and grounded, and really, I run different like PTSD and emotional like mediated pain and all those types of like different frequency like play sets from a sound therapy. And
Mhm.
she wakes up so clear, like her eyes actually look clear. Like you could
That's awesome.
tell when you're clear. We did a sound bath this weekend, and once again after that we were both just so clear. Like there's more white around her eyes. We're just
Mhm.
like grounded in. So, frequency, both sound and light, have been the icing on the cake. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
just it's just taking it to that next level because it's nothing. It's not like I said, you can do all the mental work, but then you still have to do the actual cellular healing.
Yep. Mhm.
And breath work and somatic work are very potent and powerful tools, but that takes still a long time. And that helps you switch out in the moment when you're triggered, but it's not something that's like foundationally correcting itself, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it
the
makes perfect
frequency work foundationally corrects your cells, so your cells aren't going into fight or flight anymore.
right.
So
Yeah.
they've been pretty phenomenal.
My favorite is Sadhguru. He has a chant. And it's a
The
hum.
chant.
Yeah, it ends up being a hum, so that vibrates throughout everything for me and keeps me, like, in me. And I remember last year, I was, trying really hard to make a relationship work, and that was no, not a year before, and that's kinda when I noticed how much my nervous system was dysregulated. I was holding my head was understanding and my heart was fighting for what it wanted, but my body, like it started, my thighs were shaking and I couldn't. That was the biggest thing. I was on a workout machine and my thighs were just like collapsing, and I was like, oh gosh, I need to really pay attention to what's going on with me. So I started to do a lot more meditation, but that one stuck. That one is like my favorite go-to. I read a book. This was like way, way back when everything happened. It's called "Don't Just Sit There,"
Mhm.
by Bia Timken, and she talks about meditating, being in a state of meditation. So even if you are expecting a phone call, you're so in tune with yourself that that phone call, you're present with it. So I incorporated that into my sound meditation. So every time I'm like, I will be driving and I can play that and I'm regulating, but it's also like noticing, okay, for me, it's not just the chanting. It's also connecting to which version of me felt that, where was the source of that, like where I felt that rug was pulled out from under me, where I learned, when I felt the first betrayal, or just reparenting it as well. So it ends up coming into not only healing, accepting, becoming one, and mind, body, spirit, so to speak. So
Humming
that's
is
it.
so potent. I
Yeah.
remember humming all the way through my labor. Like
Yeah.
it was so visceral and primal, and you
Yeah.
really feel it through your body. And then
Hmm.
when you are humming, then you can connect. You're like, where do I feel it? It's like it's in my
Yeah.
sacral, it's in my chest. It's like,
Yeah.
in my throat chakra. Like you really feel
Yeah.
where it's blocked, but I love humming. It's a beautiful tool.
And then when we go every 2 months, we go to inner child workshop, and part of that is very experiential. So my favorite activity there is fear, and it's being able to like help. someone understand where that fear is being stored and that being able to pull it and moving it out of their body and teaching them how to regulate at the same time. It's like, being like paying it forward, but like really seeing it in someone else. Like when they're finished, you could tell in the way that they exhale, their eyes are different, their whole body kind of do like a giant like, oh wow, I was holding on to a lot. I can breathe now. And there's so much peace in that breathing too.
Mhm.
It's like it feels like complete surrender in some ways. But what about you?
Well, mine, I like to do chakra realignment.
Mm.
And then I also like to do music therapy. I am a big music head. So I have right now my goal, which is a side hobby, is to get 10,000 songs onto my liked list. And that's just to pair so many songs to different emotions. And I'm a very vibrational creature. So a lot of times if I'm completely dysregulated, I do my shower method, but I'm always listening to music. I always have if I'm deep in sadness, it's usually pure moods, which is a lot of Enya and a lot of I can see her face, but
Rocking.
yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that one too. And then I like to do
So
grounding.
when she's playing it, you know what mood she's in.
Yeah.
100%. I
Singing
am
it
so
too.
vulnerable with my music.
Yeah.
Like even all my friends, we all have like these playlists called blends where I get to listen to their emotional world and then they get to listen to my emotional world and it's how we connect. I connect
I
so
love
much on a
that.
music level. But if I need it, I'm usually it's outside and I'm grounding and I'm like I try to be under the moon as much as possible.
Oh,
Um
mm.
and it's
I
just
love laying in the grass.
my deep we have our some nights where we just lay on the grass and we just stare up at the stars
Yeah.
and we're just breathing
Breathing together.
and it's a nice bonding. And then of course our relationship repair language that
Mhm.
we've been soulfully working on where it's really just connecting to what's needed in the moment. It's understanding each other. Like we're such a deep rooted family where if there's any dysregulation, we come and we talk to each other or we try to find a way to talk to each other.
Yeah.
My brother and my sister are teenagers, and teenagers are not always wanting to talk about their problems. And that's okay. I was once a teenager too who avoided all of my problems.
We
Yeah.
and you're here on the other side.
Exactly.
Mm.
It took me a while, but I did it. And if anything, it just makes it easier for me to be there for my brother and my sister who are going through their emotions. When they are in that deep space, I can be there for them wherever they're at because at the end of the day, I also understand where they're coming from.
Well, you've witnessed them, right? And that's the beautiful thing. You can witness it in a way that your mom can't. Like that's the beautiful thing about having that awareness and healing that generational trauma. It's like, okay, right. I can tell that and once again, each sibling,
Mhm.
I have four sisters, like each sibling will experience the parents different, the trauma different, all that kind of stuff. But you can definitely witness and validate for what they're experiencing, which is a
Yeah.
beautiful thing.
It's also interesting you brought that up too, because I get to witness your relationship with your siblings and seeing the dynamic of how that's been over the few years of like, especially you and, and Uncle Arfan. Yes,
Yeah.
Uncle Arfan, if you are listening, I am going to name drop you. Watching you, both of your relationship have grown
Yeah.
significantly over the last few years has been so impactful, so
Yeah.
healing. Because even when I was a kid, you guys were close as it was. My
Mm.
uncle was my favorite uncle. He's still my favorite uncle. And like now it being where he's literally going with us to the next course, or I guess I'm coming back to the course. But either way, I get to like actually have these deep conversations. We get to have impactful, meaningful like connections. And that's so much different than when it like how we were when I was a kid. So
And what I love too about like learning about our emotional needs, because I realized that I didn't know what my emotional needs were. So how could I even understand what someone else's or my kids were? So as I learned how their nervous system works and how they respond to, especially in conflict, how they respond to how they're responding. What we had discussions about what we need from each other. So I'm not robbing them of an opportunity to do their own self work, but actually being there and supporting whatever it is that they need. And one night, my youngest daughter, she was upset with me. We were fighting, and I went to her and she was like, she doesn't know what she needs. And I was like, well, can I try something? And I kind of scoot next to her and I hugged her. And just by giving her a hug and helping her calm down, I felt her body release. I felt her body like let go of whatever it was that she was holding on to. And that was such a beautiful, beautiful moment. And that's how the soothing repair language came about.
Going back to a word that we were talking about
Mhm.
before, regulation.
Yeah.
When you can see that someone's in distress and therefore you could choose your
Yeah.
calm and to calm your nervous system,
Mhm.
you hold that safe space for them to then invite in and calm
Yeah.
theirs. And that is such a beautiful thing, right? It's
Yeah.
not that you can't actually regulate their emotions, but
Right.
you calming your own nervous
Hmm.
system and
Yeah.
creates this safe space to invite them in
Yeah.
to ground in and ground their own nervous system. And that's such a beautiful thing. And that's where so many times it's so important that we don't react or get
Hmm.
pulled into the chaos or the trauma or the drama or
Yeah.
all that
Or
kind
the
of
rage
stuff.
bait and the and the
Right? So
defensiveness
if
and the
we
take.
if we can then take that embodied leadership and self-regulate, then we then hold the space for them to regulate as well too, as opposed to fueling their fire. So it's a beautiful thing to hold that space.
And I love that I know we need to wrap up in a few minutes, but what I love about, the conversation that we're having is that it's like on the other side of it, there's this beautiful relationship I get to have with my kids and a beautiful relationship I get to have with myself. And then I get to extend that out into my immediate family, what's the other word for immediate family?
Extended?
Extended. I get to extend it to the extended family. Judgment. And then and that brings in so much more beautiful relationships that I couldn't see before. I couldn't even see how in my own dysregulation, how I was affecting relationships. So, it's like we can go through some really, really tough times. Like the past 7 years wasn't easy by any stretch of the imagination, but to be here now, it's definitely worth it and it's definitely worth doing the work. And learn, like, truly, like, I want everybody to know and understand emotional regulation is like magic. And it's the more that can happen, the easier things get. Like the more light comes in, the more we can be the guide and shine the light and model it. And I'm glad that I've met so many people along the way, like you, Laura, because like I said, it's not often that I get to have a conversation with someone who understands the journey and emotional regulation at the same time, too. Like, I feel like it's either missing this one part or this other part, but I feel like in totality, we do understand what we faced and how to overcome it. So I definitely appreciate the conversation.
Laura, where can
La-
anybody Laura, sorry, I'm so sorry. My gosh, and I don't like when people mess up my name. I'm over here messing up names. Wow, I'm so sorry.
That's all good.
Where can we reach out to you?
The easiest way is through my website. So www.larabokeve.com. And that will all be within the show notes, I'm for sure. Or you can just Google me. There's only one of me in the world. So you can connect with me on all social media platforms, whether it's YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I'm
As usual, I will have everything linked in the description, so it saves one less step of Googling and opening another tab. But go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say to Laura, like, for our viewers or listeners, what is the main message that you would like to convey, from your heart?
truly, when it comes to anything, when it comes to breaking the cycles, if you are a parent on this journey, it's truly looking within as opposed to being so focused on what your child's reaction is. It is all within. And so, on the journey, even if you heal that pattern, their path is still their path, right? You can't, just because you've neutralized it, they're still going to have to experience life to embody that, to understand that, to inner know it, all of the above. And so you just have to continue to do the work yourself and to continue to live the way and to, work on your own healing. And working on your own healing, once again, going back to if you can do your own work and you can be that safe space, then they'll come or they won't come, but you've created that safe space. And
Yeah.
and you can't continue to build that relationship or move that relationship forward if you're not in that safe space. So it's so important for you to do the work so you can parent from presence and not trauma. So that your truth because, and we didn't even touch on this, but I know
I
that,
know.
we had so many fun
We can do
conversations,
we'll definitely do another one for sure.
from nervous system to body dysmorphia to, what you search in for a loving
Mm.
partner to friendships to relationships. It all starts with you,
Yeah.
right? You want a kind child. Are you kind?
Yeah.
If your child's entitled, well, the truth is that you're entitled. Like, you know
Mhm.
what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like everything that you witness outside of you is a reflection within, and it truly is an invitation, as we mentioned earlier, an invitation for you to explore. It comes in layers. It doesn't happen all at once, but every single trigger, every single, upset is all a door. And I invite you to walk through that door and to sort of see what's on the other side. But it is a journey, but it's time to take accountability because nothing will change if we don't take accountability
Yeah.
of who we are. Moment.
Accountability without shame, grace and compassion for the journey. That's a beautiful message. I definitely second, third, fourth it and and reinforce it. I truly see your heart in what you just by you sharing that is a reflection of the work that you've done. And it's coming from inward outward. And that's really beautiful. And I'd love to, I mean, I know we did not, there's so much more we could touch and
I mean,
I'm happy to come back. So just let me
yes,
know
okay,
when.
good. Yes, please. Well, I love the conversation, truly.
well, I'm gonna wrap it because we've got.
I know we are on a time crunch today.
But thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Breaking the Cycles. We will see you on the next one. Thank
Yay.
you for coming on to this episode.
Yes,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
having me.